Hello, my name is Cook99. Now, in today's video, so say you're looking for a pet snake that you want to start moving up to the next level of snakes, or the intermediate level. So, this video is all about how to care for the Rhino Rat Snake. We'll get back to Reptile Planet. Okay, so you want a pet snake, you want to try to go for Rhino Rat Snake. So Rhino Rats do fall under an intermediate care level. Now these snakes are colubrids, so they are related to rat snakes, corn snakes, so on. But they do come from Vietnam and China. Now the reason they get their name Rhino Rat Snake is because they have a little long appendage on their snout, and they do come in a green coloration as adults. Now they can go to about 5 feet long, so they're a pretty lengthy snake, very slender as well. So as hatchlings, they can be kept in a 30 by 30 by 70 centimeter enclosure. So you do need to provide them a lot of space, also a lot of height, because they are arboreal, so they like to spend a lot of their time like in the trees. So, and then once they go up to adults, as they get bigger, you do need to move them to a 3 foot by 2 foot by 1.5 foot enclosure. That way, you have a lot of space to hide, climb, and so on. Now, for their temperature, they do need to be kept around at 23 to 30 degrees Celsius, around 80 to 90 degrees for their hot spots. And basically, and at night, they do need to be kept to about 21, 23 degrees Celsius, with 75 degrees at night. So at nighttime, the temperature needs to come down to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. So for their heat, you can use spot bulbs during the daylight, during the daytime when they're basking. And for their nighttime, you can use a heat mat to monitor to keep the temperature around 75 degrees with a heat mat. So for their substrate, you can use orchard bark for their substrate. And it's also best to include climbing areas, kind of like provide some tree branches, some overhangs, and make sure they have something to climb onto. Provide a water dish for drinking, and as well as hiding areas, so that way they'll be able to feel secure. And always provide a hide space for your snake. That way there's something to make sure they have that security, make sure they feel safe. That way they won't be feeling stressed out, and hopefully you won't have, and that way you won't have a very a nervous snake 24/7. So for their humidity, they do need to be kept around 75% for their humidity. So it's always best to use a misting system to keep the humidity around 75%. Now, for their diet, they can be fed on frozen thawed rodents. Now, for like any snake, as hatchlings, they can be a bit shy and like a little snappy when they're juveniles, because they're nervous and they're trying to defend themselves. But with gentle, regular handling, they can tame out. So it's best to work with them as much as possible. Don't try to like overdo it. Maybe spend at least maybe like 15-20 minutes or so trying to get them used to your presence and your handling. Make sure you know you're not a threat to them, and make sure that they make sure that you're there as kind of like like they'll see you as like something that they don't need to fear. So yeah, Rhino Rat Snake are definitely a beautiful rat snake to keep, but it's best to always do your research before owning any pet snake whatsoever. So it's best to, before you own a pet snake of any kind, especially with a Rhino Rat, make sure, because a lot of stuff can be costly, especially getting an enclosure to house them in. So let me show you an example of what I am talking about. So this is kind of like what I mean. So this is basically an enclosure for animals who like it height-wise. So it's kind of like over like a 40-gallon enclosure. This was kept for, I think all you guys remember my Chinese warrior dragon named Roscoe. So this was his enclosure when he got a little bigger, because it's height-wise. so it's a lot support for him to climb upward. That's the same kind of thing you want your Rhino Rat to have as well, like kind of something height-wise. Also a lot of space for them to roam around and hide, so it provides them that type of security. So that way they'll be able to feel safe in their new enclosures, so they won't be stressing out so much. See, that's kind of like an example of like even though it's kind of like 40 gallons, like Rhino Rat Snake need a larger enclosure for them to roam around in. So that's highly recommended. It can be costly. So yes, if you're willing to make that commitment, as I say, go for it. But like I said, always make sure you do your research before you own any pet snake whatsoever. Alright, so that is the care guide for a Rhino Rat Snake. If you enjoyed the video, please like the button. If you have any questions, put it down in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more content, and I will see you guys next time. See ya.